Hi, my name is Marissa Scholl, and today I would like to give some information regarding hemophilia disorder, as well as some exercises that one can do with living with this disorder by presenting a case study on my stepbrother, Jacob Crush. Hemophilia disorder is defined as a bleeding disorder due to the body's absence or mutations of either factor VIII or factor IX gene. I'll go into more detail about what those factors are and what they do for the body, but for now, in general, this causes an inability to form a proper blood clot. Blood clots aid the body in preventing excessive blood loss during an injury or a cut. As you can see here, a healthy individual forms a blood clot and the bleeding stops. An individual with hemophilia, the clot does not form and the bleeding does not stop. There are multiple types of hemophilia. There's hemophilia A, the most common, which is where there's an absence in the factor VIII gene. There's hemophilia B, which there's a mutation in the factor IX gene. Both of these factors produce coagulation proteins. These proteins aid in the blood clotting process, which, as I said before, protects the body from excessive blood loss during injury. Just to summarize, a blood clot is formed when a blood vessel is injured. Platelets are attracted to the injured surface and bind to receptors on the endothelium. This is where they are linked to the collagen fibrils. An individual with hemophilia does not have the proper platelet adhesion to continue the formation of the fibrin clot, also known as the blood clot. Now, the level of missing or mutated coagulation factors measure the severity of the hemophilia. Mild or moderate hemophilia just reduces the activity of these proteins but does not completely eliminate it. Severe hemophilia, however, completely eliminates the activity of these proteins. There is another type of hemophilia known as acquired hemophilia. This is where the body creates proteins known as autoantibodies that disable the factor VIII gene. Since the factor VIII gene is disabled, the same problem with blood clotting occurs as hemophilia A and hemophilia B. This case is extremely rare and typically only begins in individuals 40 years old or older, and the cause is unknown. For the rest of this presentation, I'm going to focus on hemophilia A and hemophilia B. However, the majority of the information is also true to acquired hemophilia. The main cause of hemophilia is genetic inheritance. This disorder is it goes through an X-linked recessive pattern, which means it's passed down through the X chromosome, which also means that fathers cannot pass the disorder on to their sons. A female with one altered copy of the gene is known as a carrier. If a son inherits the affected X chromosome from his carrier mother, he will have hemophilia. If he inherits the healthy X chromosome, he will not have hemophilia. Daughters having hemophilia is extremely rare, but it does happen. In this case, both inherited X chromosomes would have to be affected, or the father's X chromosome would have to be absent and the mother's would have to be affected. It is most common that the daughters turn into carriers, which they inherit the mother's affected X chromosome and the father's healthy Y X chromosome. Or she could also be a carrier and have factor levels below 50%, which would mean she would be a hemophiliac. If you look over here, there's just an example of a family. A mother is a carrier, a father is healthy, and they have these four options of children. A completely healthy son, hemophiliac son with the mother's affected X chromosome, completely healthy daughter, or carrier daughter with the mother's affected X chromosome again. There are a few main symptoms of hemophiliac's experience. However, the severity of these symptoms depend upon the severity of hemophilia, as I have written there in red. An individual with mild hemophilia has 6 to 49% of factor VIII or IX in the blood. One with moderate has 1 to 5% of either factor, and one with severe hemophilia has less than 1% of either factor. Now, coming back to the symptoms listed above. The excessive bleeding may occur after injury. For example, a small child may get injured on a playground falling. He may cut his elbow. If he was a hemophiliac, he would bleed a lot longer and need to be treated. But if he was healthy, he could just put a Band-Aid on and he'd be totally fine. The excessive bleeding may also occur internally into the muscles or joints, which is how we come to another symptom, swollen or sore joints. The ankles, knees, and elbows are most commonly swollen because they are most commonly bled into. Large and deep bruising may also occur due to the bleeding into the muscles. Individuals with severe and sometimes moderate hemophilia typically experience the internal bleeding, the blood in the urine, the extremely swollen joints, and the deep bruises. Females who do have hemophilia tend to experience heavy menstrual periods or hemorrhage problems after birth. If a mother is a carrier or the family has a history of hemophilia, most cases are diagnosed right in the hospital immediately after birth. And this is done by doctors taking a blood sample from the umbilical cord and measuring the amount of factor 8 or 9 in the blood. There are also many other tests that can be done, including screening tests or clotting factor tests. Complete blood count is an example of a screening test, and this is where they take the amount of hemoglobin, the size and number of red blood cells, the numbers of different white blood cells, and platelets in the blood. Now, an individual with hemophilia would typically have a normal result for this test. However, if they have excessive heavy bleeding, the number of hemoglobin and red blood cells would be low. Another test is an activated partial thromboplastin time test. This test measures how long it takes the blood to clot, and it focuses on factors 8, 9, 11, and 12. Now, this test will come out as, with the hemophiliac, as a longer time, considering that they take longer for the blood to clot, or the blood does not clot at all. Another test is a prothrombin time test. This also measures how long it takes the blood to clot. However, it focuses on factors 1, 2, 5, 7, and 10. So this test results will be normal for someone with hemophilia because those levels of factor are not affected. Clotting factor tests, also known as factor assays, measure the amount of factor 8 and factor 9 in the blood specifically. These tests result in knowing the severity and the type of hemophilia, which is extremely important for treatment plans. There is no complete cure for hemophilia. However, there are treatments, and it is very important for an individual with hemophilia to visit a hemophilia treatment center where they can see a group of experienced hematologists and nurses and find the correct treatment plan for them. One treatment involves the injection of blood clotting factors into the blood. Now, what this does is replace the missing factors from the body. There are two types: plasma-derived factor concentrates, which is where clotting factors are taken from human plasma, purified, and made into freeze-dried product. There's also recombinant factor concentrates, which are genetically engineered using DNA technology. Now, the first plasma-derived is most common. However, both blood clotting factors that are injected into the veins are pre-tested and treated to kill any potential viruses, and they have no way of transmitting any blood-borne viruses. Other medications include desmopressin acetate, which is a chemical also injected into the vein, and it releases factor 8. This mainly helps individuals with mild hemophilia by increasing their own factor levels above 50%. Another medication, Amicar, can be injected or taken by mouth, and it prevents the breakdown of blood clots, and that's typically used in small mouth bleeds, for example, after a dentist appointment if your gums are bleeding, or if a child bites their tongue or their cheek. Another medication is cryoprecipitate. Now, this is a substance that's derived from plasma, and it's very rich in factor 8. However, there is no method to kill the viruses, so it's no longer used in the U.S. due to safety. A few statistics regarding hemophilia. 1 in 4,000 to 1 in 5,000 males are born with hemophilia A, and about 1 in 20,000 males are born with hemophilia B. As I mentioned before, it is much more common in males than it is in females. 60% of cases are severe, 15% of cases are moderate, and about 25% of cases are mild. Now, most benefits of exercise are the same for healthy individuals as they are for individuals with hemophilia. Exercise has psychological benefits like improving self-confidence and relieving stress, as well as physiological benefits like building strong muscles and joints to support the body, and also in the long run it can prevent or slow down bleeding, which is very important for hemophiliacs. It can also increase balance or coordination for those who do have swollen ankles and knees and have trouble walking. My case study I did on my stepbrother, Jacob Grush. Jacob is a 21-year-old male suffering from severe hemophilia A since the day he was born. He is currently living at home while looking for a job. He was never involved in any physical activity or sports due to his condition. He is in the normal BMI range, but he could afford to gain some weight. His family history is clean and healthy besides the mother being a hemophilia carrier. Jacob also has very high blood pressure, which he is currently taking lisinopril for stabilization. Jacob is interested in finding exercises and activities he can do, as well as building some muscle mass. Here again is just an overview and a risk stratification for Jacob. He's 21, 5'9.5", and 145 pounds, which puts him at the 21.1 BMI range, which is normal, but like I said, he could afford to gain some weight. He spends majority of his time playing video games, so he has a sedentary lifestyle. Family has no issues. His fasting blood glucose, HDL, and LDL levels are all normal. He never smoked, and his blood pressure is 124/82. However, he is taking 15 milligrams of lisinopril daily. So even though his blood pressure is only in the prehypertensive stage, he's on medication, so it's still a risk factor. After the stratification, came to the conclusion that Jacob is moderate risk. He has 2 risk factors, hypertension and sedentary lifestyle, but he is asymptomatic for any cardiovascular, pulmonary, or metabolic disease, so he's under moderate. His goals include participating in physical activity in general, as well as gaining muscle mass. The tests I would perform for aerobic exercise would be a 12-minute walk test just to see where he's at, where his heart rate and max heart rate gets to. 1 RM for squat and bench press using assisted machines since he does not work out and to protect his joints. And the sit and reach for flexibility. Overall, Jacob's prescription will include a very basic light intensity aerobic workouts, low intensity resistance training building up to moderate as he gets stronger over the few weeks, and basic range of motion flexibility. I plan to incorporate the progression principle by increasing intensity and duration as he gets stronger to build up his strength and his muscle mass. For his prescription, I would like him to do a warm-up before every single workout, light intensity, about 5 to 10 minutes long, and just some dynamic stretching focusing on every part of the body. For aerobic training, I would like him to do this 3 to 5 days per week at a light intensity, 40 to 60% of his heart rate max. Only for 30 to 60 minutes, he can start low with 30 and then work his way up to longer, and also take adequate rest periods. He can walk, bike ride, swim, do some playground activity, or kick around with his siblings. The kicking around and also the jumping on the trampoline, he would have to be very careful and could only do for very short amounts of time due to his joints. For resistance training, he should do that 3 to 5 days per week. Begin at a low intensity, 60 to 80% of his 1 RM. 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 10 reps. I would like him to try to cycle in about 8 to 10 exercises. It could be a little difficult. Like I said, his rest periods would have to be strong, and he would always have to tell us how his joints are feeling. Types of exercise he could do machine work. I'd rather him start with machines than free weights because he could, 1, injure his hands, cut his hands, so I would also like him wearing gloves. And also, since he was sedentary before, he needs to start with machines. He can do resistance bands and also body weight exercises focusing on large muscle groups. Flexibility, I would like him to also do daily. Intensity is just to the point of tension. About 15 minutes, holding each stretch for 10 to 15 seconds. He could do static stretching or yoga, which I am told he also enjoys, or Pilates. In conclusion, I like to believe that knowledge is key in this case, and it is actually National Bleeding Disorder Month. So most individuals who have bleeding disorders do not believe how exercise can be medicine and it can be treatment. So I think that they need to get some more knowledge, just look things up, use this, and I hope this really helps everyone who is wondering about bleeding disorders. Thank you.